Hello, my name is Vikaya. This is a video response to SnakeGame from SharpAccent. It's quite a lot to go over, so we'll go quickly into this. We've created a canvas. We've set the scale with screen size, just default values I tend to like. I also like the match 0.5. We also created an image. This is part of the colony sim, and also we're using sprites to display stuff. So I want an image, a UI image, which we have a sprite. When we do that, I don't think yeah, I didn't turn off one more. We also have to turn off one more little feature here. We have to say U is image. This creates the same sort of map we're creating, but allows us to create a scalable map. This works really good for the colony sim because that's our sort of height map right there, and then we can sort of adjust it to scale or move it around any way we like. You can see, I believe this is the player down here, which is not working out very good for the player because he is off scale. That's some of the problems I have to fix for that. Um, when we it's pretty straightforward. Um, when you create the map, you do everything the exact same way. Set up a sprite render. Well, you don't have to, but for the image, you create a texture using the height and width. Set everything up like that. You apply the texture. You create the sprite through the same, but through here, through the create sprite, the exact same way. But then for this UI image here, you set its sprite to the new sprite. And then this is if we're doing it, through the normal sprite way. You set the sprite render through there. We now no longer using the image, and I've disabled that. So now when I hit play, we'll see the game, but now it doesn't scale correctly because we're using the default. One things I want to talk about. So we are creating this apple object, and then when we run into the apple, you can see that it will create this apple down, which is part of this apple object that we have, which is now green. I believe if we turn off the players, we should be able to see. Yeah, here's the apple is now green, and which is this where the node is. But then under that, we create this apple explosion. We're calling it, and then we're setting the rotation. Since we're going down, we set the y the one, yeah, the y to 1. Since we're facing, we want it to be as close to where we were, and then we want to display down. We set up a game object. We set its position, rotation, everything to default. But when we instantiate, we set up the variables. Under that, under our prefab, we created a particle system here. I wanted it to be 0.5, so it's quite a bit smaller than the apple. We wanted it to be red. We also only want like 10 particles to go, and I believe did quite a bit of other things. But one of the things we wanted to do was create this cone. Right here, so you can see that we also set the cone size in the prefab to be sort of as if this was like a tile size, and then this was how much farther we wanted to go away. Also, under our renderer, we set it to be a vertical billboard because we actually I guess we kind of are getting that we wanted this to be sort of flat tiles, and then we set the the material to this sprite tile again, which creates a cool effect. Under here we have this WrapMode. We can have a safe input. We can also show the future, and then we can change it to light speed, and then hit R to reset. And now we're going quite a bit faster because we're in light speed mode, and now we're way too fast. Wrap mode means that I can now wrap from left to right. It was actually quite easy. Hopefully I'll show that real quick. And then the future is just the gray dot. It was just sort of things that we could do. Anyways, oh, to set up the prefab for the particle explosion, it's this right here. We set up just a generic game object, which is kind of the sort of suggested way to do things. Of a position and a rotation and a scale that's all set to nothing, and then when you set it up, and then for our particles, we created a particle system. We have it set up scaled. This is sort of scaled in the direction we want it to go in, so we can actually, so it was a little bit bigger, and then it's scaled up this way height-wise, and there's no rotation or scale on this. So when we set this up in code, it creates it for us. Let's see, and I think that's on score Apple. So under score Apple, this is our code to say, hey, we're instantiating this Apple prefab. We have a node Apple, which is just the node geo that we're creating. We changed its layer to the effects layer, and then set our effect app, our prefab, our Apple explosion prefab to that. When we're facing, this is where we're facing the current direction. So if we're up, or if we're down, down, we set the rotation to the quaternion angle axis. These are sort of preset based on what we thought was good. We set the rotation to the angle axis to 90 on the vector 3.right for both of these. They're both set in the center of the object, but then if it's down, we set it to 1F. If it's up, we set it to 0F because we wanted it to face up. And then the same thing for the left and right, just on the opposite directions. And then we just give it a name. We change the apple color, and then we just we set this node apple, which is the node geo primary object that's holding the apple. We set the destroy. We give the destroy a its game object and destroy it in 0.75, and then we wipe out the reference to the apple. Under the, let's see, what was the color. When you set the color, we just return the node.color, and then we had to check if the node, we weren't setting the node correctly on the player, so we don't need this anymore. But then once we have the node, we can set the texture, which we create just through the generic texture that he was doing, and he set the pixel to the color, node.color, or value in this case. And then anyway, so that's the particles. So the other cool thing we thought was we instantiate a button prefab. We set its text equal to this ternary operator, which is the WrapMode, and then we say if we're in WrapMode a square map, and then we set up this lambda expression that says, hey, when you click on this, alternate the Boolean value, and then set the text value. Under the, it's under game, when we have this utility that gets floats and bools and difficulty, and converts it from, like, for instance, the Boolean. When we get the Boolean for the wrap map or whatever, we get this integer value and convert that through this Boolean. So if it's an integer of 0, we return false, else it's true. It's just a simple way to convert, and then we do the same thing in reverse. Under manage game, when we set up a player move, yeah, so we have this sort of complicated function of getting this node, and then we pass in the node and the found apple. Probably not a good thing, but anyways, we loop through all our objects. We get the node last to the current node for everybody. We set, we're not sure if we're using the node last, so we set the player to false. If we're at the head, we set the nodes, which is just a we set the node that we're receiving into the next node. Else we're getting the previous node that we just set up before from this. So if this is 1, this is 1 minus 1 is 0. So we set it to the previous nodes. So where we were last node, and then we um, so that so then we under SnakeGeo, for instance, this is what we're controlling here, and then we set the nodes, the node last, and this is the node geo's node here, and then we just update the position. We're thinking about doing a lerp, but anyways, I think that should be about it. It's the difficult, we talked about game difficulty. It's just an enumeration, and then just based on the what it is, we set when we change the difficulty, we set a time, we get a score, we change the time as well. I thought it was really cool. And a big shout out to, if you missed it, this is a shout out to Spaceballs, the movie. It's Lightspeed, Ridiculous, Ludicrous, and Plaid. Anyway, so maybe a quick run through of the game. You can. Oh, I didn't turn off the particle system. And I probably. Oh, so anyway, so we're moving kind of slow, even though. But now we can. Oh, it shouldn't have been that. Yeah, there we go. I'm not sure why. Anyway, so we create these particles, we destroy things. I think that's really cool. And then you can go up to ridiculous speed, and then ludicrous and plaid. Oh, one thing I didn't talk about, I was thinking about, sorry, trying to be as quick as I can, but also inclusive. When we run a timer here, if we're in plaid, we just run our game loop automatically. That's why it runs super fast. And then if we're not in plaid, or for instance, if it's easy, then our timer is set to 1 second, and then we count down. And then once we're down to less than 0, we reset the timer. And then our game update, we do. This is like the future node is where this sets the future node. So this is our current node, and then gets the next node, and then we move through that, and then we get, if we're showing the future, we get another once this game move sets the next node through this gets the player object's 0 current node. So once we move the game, then we get a future node again to be able to set that. Anyways, that's pretty much it. I know there's a ton of stuff I'd really like to show, but the last 2 videos have been 35 minutes, so I'm trying to keep this short. I think the coolest thing for me is the particle system, and getting it to rotate and go in the correct direction, kind of like have this. I thought about when the snake eats the apple, it was going to have this chunks kind of blow out as if the apple was being devoured in the direction it was going. So it's some of the position and sort of could be set up better, but I thought it was really cool. And anyways, I'm Micaiah, and I want to keep this short, so thanks very much, and I appreciate everybody watching, and we'll see you next time.